Biotech trades are a lot like buy and hold long-term investing. In absolutely no way. But do not get confused by this screenshot, because I can't think of a more deadly way to invest your money as a retail trade. Combine my knowledge of biomedical science and graphs with volatility that looks like your heart rate after a very small mountain of cocaine, and remarkable things are bound to happen. The rich history of the business of medicine. Fun fact, cocaine was marketed as a cure for toothaches in children. Cocaine toothache drops first went under patent in the 19th century, where life was a series of coal-powered death traps, one after the other, for 12 to 16 hours per day. Arms ripped off in the factory? This alcohol chloroform cocktail should, how your child's teeth are rotting away? Here's some cocaine. Funnily enough, it's actually easier to make the things cocaine wasn't prescribed for. At least if you're taking a page out of Sigmund Freud's book. Fortunately, in the 21st century, the pendulum of regulation has swung to the other side, and we now have the biotech industry, which is the investing equivalent of Russian roulette with 5 bullets. All these biotech catastrophes, it's funny because starting a biotech company is actually fairly simple. All you have to do is use biomedical science to make a breakthrough revolutionary enough to where your idea will not only be uniquely defensible according to the complicated thicket of patent law, promising enough to where you can convince investors to watch you light their money on fire for 5 to 10 years with an incredibly low likelihood of success, but also useful enough to be commercially viable and compared to the other treatments on the market. Checked all those boxes? Well, don't be alarmed, because though this is, and I quote, the culmination of years of research and planning, it is merely the beginning of the long and arduous process of turning a chemical into a marketed medicine. I've been reading this guide to a biotech startup for the past 4 hours, and I cannot understand how people do this. This is entrepreneurship. The high level of failure, the science of medicine. How many areas within this could you fuck something up? It's truly a testament to the incredible amount of coordination and work that goes into the biotech success stories. Not to mention the fact that the outcomes are often life-altering, if not life-saving treatments. Hence the reason today I'm going to be shorting these companies. It's physically impossible for me to make money in the stock market. So if I take a short position, the share price will have to go up, which could only happen on good news for the company. So what I'm actually doing is trying to help these companies by shorting them. Everybody does their part. Clinical stage biotech stocks have the most violent catalysts of any in the market. The only place where 40, 50, 60, 70% drops in one day are commonplace. In order to understand why, we'll use an allegory with dogs. Not because it's actually useful, but because I think dog wearing lab coat is funny. No one can convince me this image isn't hilarious. This is the life cycle of a new drug, from an idea on the left side to a marketed medicine on the right. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the middle. In biotech, there are still classic business risks, but those aren't responsible for this insane volatility. No, this is the product of the clinical trial process. The 3-stage regulatory gauntlet responsible for more bankruptcies per capita than the introduction of level 3 options trading in Robinhood. I just made that up on the spot. I don't know if that's true. Because in order for new drugs to reach the market, they need to be tested for both safety and efficacy. While there may be a solid rationale behind why a treatment might work, clinical stage biotech is usually a very expensive roll of the dice. And when you're rolling the dice, spooky and unpredictable things might happen, which is not foreshadowing the rest of this video. With other companies, there are more possible outcomes. While this looks like a bad drop, Facebook is working now to rebrand, pivot, and change its trajectory for the better. Although, I can't imagine this will be the thing that does it. Outcomes in biotech are binary. At the end of the day, a treatment is either effective or not. The majority are ineffective, and pivoting is usually not an option. So all we need to do is find a company whose entire value is based on a concentrated drug pipeline, short it before one of these catalyst dates, and we're good, right? If we look at this biotech probability of success chart, the odds are surely stacked in our favor. To that, I will offer you one phrase. It works until it doesn't. So what does it not working look like? Well, for every 9 biotech failures, there is roughly 1 success. and it will bend you over. 100% upward moves are a regular occurrence in biotech, and I'm not even worried about that. This is the only time when losing 100% of my money is actually not the thing I'm worried about. Let me show you why. In December of 2020, Greenwich Life Sciences reported in a press release that its clinical stage treatment GP2 reduced breast cancer occurrences to zero. The stock proceeded to rally 2,000% in one day. That means if you would have shorted just $2,000 worth of this stock, you would have woken up to a $40,000 loss. Short selling introduces undefined risk, and there's no other place in the market where 500, 1,000, 2,000% losses are just one press release away. The prospect of high failure is intriguing for the short seller, but it comes with the risk of absolutely debilitating losses. Luckily for me, risk is an old friend. That being said, thinking about doing this actually makes me sick to my stomach. But hey, I'm an adult, I get sick, I handle it. I make a Theraflu and Jack Daniels cocktail and get my rest. It just doesn't usually involve losing money as well. So cut the Theraflu. This time it's just going to be 2 parts Jack Daniels, 1 part Jack Daniels, followed by 2 more parts honey. Flavored Jack Daniels. Speaking of risky biotech trades, if you want to see more of them, you can on Ben's Patreon. But what are some of the other things you'll find on there? My mysterious $17,000 trade, which has lost money. Some more serious option trades, which have made money, as well as some other exclusive content. That's right. You guys know you can't count on OnlyFans these days. Welcome. Allow me to introduce you to biofarmcatalyst.com, the website that unfortunately makes it way too convenient to make risky biotech trades. Here we can see all the upcoming catalysts as well as how far they are in the clinical trial process. You might be thinking, Ben, we should probably pick one of these catalysts a few months out. After all, each one of these companies is the culmination of years of research, and one couldn't possibly hope to understand the nuances of these studies in a few days. That is true, which is why I decided to pick companies with catalysts in the next day or two. Because if I have months to do something, the work always seems to happen in the last 2 days anyway. Why add all this time in the first place? After discovering biofarmcatalyst.com, I took to PubMed, absorbing every little piece of information I could about the clinical trial process for approximately 5 minutes, at which point I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to interpret the information here in any meaningful way, which is why I decided to go to Plan B. May as well just start shorting random stuff and see what happens. But just for education's sake, what would biotech DD actually look like? Let's look at Adial Pharmaceuticals, a clinical stage biotech company developing a treatment for alcohol abuse. I'm going to be shorting them. There's some kind of irony in this. And yes, I decided I was going to short the stock before doing due diligence. Come on, I'm not about to do all of that work just to not short them. Due diligence is about analyzing a company and selectively picking the parts you like so you can retroactively justify your risky short position and have a chance of sleeping at night while you hold through a press release. And when I say I did due diligence, I mean I just skimmed some analyst coverage I found online. But I guess the least I can do for you guys is summarize the summary of the summary. So Adial is set to release their top-line phase 3 trial data for their primary pipeline candidate AD04 2 days from now. Seeing the comparatively high level of engagement for Adial, I figure this is probably going to be a big one. There was also an overwhelmingly bullish sentiment, which if retail thinks something is going up, you should always short it. This is one of the most predictive factors for the success or failure of a company. When trying to short a biotech clinical trial, all you need to do is determine whether the market has accurately priced the drug's probability of success in the next step of the process. You do this by getting a PhD in biomedical science and working for 30 years in the field. Haha, funny, but loosely you need to understand the factors that correlate with clinical trial success or failure, enough so that you can quantify them into a percentage probability of success from which you could determine a fair share price based on the total addressable market should the drug succeed. If the market price is lower, go long. If it's higher, go short. Could you just make millions of dollars consulting if you knew how to do this with any consistency? Yes. But investing is not about doing what's smart financially. It's about justifying a borderline concerning gambling addiction with quasi-intellectual noise. Adile's main pipeline candidate is a treatment for alcohol use disorder. The treatment includes both a genetic test as well as a tablet that you take orally. Unlike a lot of other alcohol use disorder treatments, you can still drink while taking the medicine. It just makes drinking less fun, so you want to do it less. The primary endpoint, or the main result that's measured to see if the treatment actually works, is a reduction in heavy drinking measured by the number of heavy drinking days. A heavy drinking day being defined as when a female had 4 or more drinks in a day, or when a male had 5 or more drinks in a day. What happens when you have 4 heavy drinking days in one day? That's the entrepreneur Sigma grind set. You wake up at 7 a.m. I've already had 2 drinking days by the time you wake up. We are not the same. One drink is defined as 14 grams of alcohol. That's 1 beer, 1 shot, probably a gallon of the sugar water that your girlfriend calls alcohol. The patients have been classified into groups of either heavy drinking or very heavy drinking, with the idea being that ADO4 will decrease the number of drinking days for both groups by more than the placebo. But how does it actually do that? The active ingredient in this treatment is ondansetron, which is currently commercially available as a generic, used to treat nausea in patients that have received chemotherapy. Ondansetron is a 5-HT3 receptor antagonist, or a serotonin 3 receptor antagonist, meaning it blocks serotonin 3 receptors. Serotonin 3 receptor activation enhances the release of dopamine, and it's believed that by blocking these receptors, you reduce the rewarding effects of alcohol as well as the motivation to continue drinking. That's pulled directly from Adile's 10K if you want to read more about it. So that you can still drink during the treatment, it's not going to be as enjoyable, leading you to drink less, leading to a reduction in the number of heavy drinking days. But Ben, you said the active ingredient ondansetron is available as a generic. So how is Adile going to have any pricing power should the trial succeed? Well, it turns out chemical composition is far from the only thing you can patent. Adile has patented the ultra-low dose of ondansetron used to treat alcohol use disorder, which is still a risk in itself. Off-label prescriptions pose a real threat to a company like Adile. That would be a doctor prescribing the generic and telling the patient to split the tablet into smaller parts so they can take the dose recommended for alcohol use disorder, effectively cutting ADO4 out of the treatment. It's an impractical solution, being that the dose used to treat alcohol use disorder is 14 times less than the generic tablets, but it is still a risk. That's another reason the genetic test plays a big part in the treatment. Combine the patented genetic panel and ultra-low-dose tablet to create one therapeutic offering surrounded by walls of intellectual property defense. But having a genetic test is brilliant for another reason. It's thought that 33% of the United States has the genetic predisposition to alcohol use disorder, which pales in comparison to Europe, where that number is upwards of 100%. The genetic biomarker test allows the patient to see if they have the genotype that is most likely to benefit from treatment with ADO4. This is great for both patient buy-in and marketing. It makes treatment less threatening because it allows patients to assign more responsibility to something genetic that's out of their control rather than a behavioral problem. I wonder what the genotype that's predisposed to financial losses is. It's genetic. It's a genetic thing. I shorted 1,000 shares of Adile stock. Robinhood will let 18-year-olds put their life savings in one-day-till-expiration options, but will not let you short sell. What does that tell you about how dangerous this might be? The trial results were set to be released the next day. After the extensive due diligence process, I felt confident that I had no idea what the fuck was going to happen. If I could click over more. And to my surprise, it was a success. Adile failed to meet its primary endpoint, and proving that ADO4 led to a statistically significant reduction in heavy drinking days across the combined populations. This was mainly because the placebo group of very heavy drinkers showed a large reduction in heavy drinking days. What's interesting is that when separated, heavy drinkers did see a statistically significant reduction in heavy drinking days. And while this population makes up the largest percentage of Adile's target customers, the market still did not react well. Our position Inflation made 25% over a 3-day holding period. $400, which should be almost enough to buy one loaf of bread come 2023. Making any amount of money to me, I had already priced in a 100% loss, so this was a pleasant surprise. Who would have thought it would be a treatment for alcohol use disorder that would break the curse of the inverse Ben rule? Now that is a happy ending, I think. I wanted to clarify some things so no one gets the wrong impression. I've been shorting various biotech companies over the past few weeks. Overall, it was a net profit. I was just waiting for something extreme to happen as an example of the volatility that comes with biotech, and it really did not take long. In fact, I was about 5 seconds away from shorting Humanigen as well, which imploded just a few weeks earlier. That would have been an 80% return in a one-day holding period. Is this representative of what will happen with you? Honestly, it could be, which is why it is dangerous. Most drugs don't make it through the clinical trial process, which means it's probably going to work multiple times before the entire thing implodes. So if your knowledge of chemistry is anything like mine, you'd be better off reading Chemistry for Curious Kids before thinking about looking at a clinical trial. Blockchain for babies. You can bet every motherfucker with $100 in Coinbase is buying this for his kid.